Hi, and welcome to Total Rewind, a Filmmaker's Compass podcast where we take a look at movies 30 years and older and see if they still hold up. I'm D-Man, joined by my co-host CP, and we are excited because we are doing all these Halloween fall-type movies this month. It's October, and, it's weird because they're not always my favorite movies, but it's so fun to get in the spirit of fall and Halloween. Well, I mean, what do you think?
Oh, dude, it's part of what makes the holidays so memorable for me is the fact that we get to revisit the same movies over and over, and kind of it's something that connects each year to the previous. And I think it keeps, them fun and it builds tradition. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah, in honor of the holidays and tradition, we're actually going to take a look. We're going to switch it up a little bit this week. So this past week we've been talking about horror movies and different stuff, but we're going in a totally different direction here. We're going cartoon Peanuts. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. So there, if you're on video,
boom, right
there's
there.
The actual case. So this is one that I watch every year. I watch all the Charlie Brown specials as part of my holiday lineup, whether it's Halloween, Thanksgiving, or Christmas. And I will have to say at the top of the episode, the Christmas one is my favorite, but it's also the one that kind of kicked off Charlie Brown even doing the holiday specials. But I'm a big fan of the music in the Christmas one. I actually have a playlist on Pandora, and I'll just play that with like the Charlie Brown Christmas music. So when we take a look at It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, I mean, I think we ask ourselves, does this movie hold up? And I think the number one thing that the movie does is bring up nostalgia. So,
totally.
Right. Obviously, it's got a lot of Halloween iconography in there. They have pumpkin patch. They have kids trick-or-treating dressed as ghosts and witches and Frankenstein's monster, and they have bats flying out and, full moons, all that stuff. So they're definitely, bringing in the iconography of Halloween into the Peanuts universe. And I think to great effect. It works really well. And they, jump right in, as they do with all their specials, with the main theme song, the Peanuts theme song, gets you right into the mood. And, one of the things when it comes to like the nostalgia is they have kind of running gags. And I think here they play them again to great effect, such as, Charlie Brown having to kick the football.
Yeah.
That's something that he's known for. And he even, I think in this one, he actually acknowledges that he's not going to do it because even he is aware of the running gag himself in character. So I thought that was funny. They do the running gag of, they always seem to have a scene with Snoopy kind of going off on his own imaginative journey.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I wasn't necessarily a huge fan. I don't know, were you?
Not really, but in reading some of the reviews of from 66 when it came out, the Snoopy Red Baron shot down over France sequence is considered by many to be one of like the greatest animated sequences ever. Really? Which I found a little surprising because obviously all the Peanut specials are sort of a series of vignettes, and it feels the most out of place.
Yeah, it was strange to me watching it. Like, and I know that whole like Snoopy doing his own side adventure thing is, like we said, that's something that they employ in a lot of the different Peanuts movies that have come out. And here it just felt, I don't know. I was kind of like, get back to the main story.
It feels like it should have been in like this, like the Peanuts gang, like Memorial Day weekend special or something,
yeah.
It was very out of place, I felt. And so I thought it was funny that it gets so much praise and attention and is so memorable by so many animators.
That is interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that. But while we're talking about animation then, do you think the animation here holds up?
It's weird. In our lifetime, right? We've gone through so many distinct kind of styles of animation. We've really seen the rise of kind of the CG Pixar style of animation. I think it does in the sense that it's classic and it's recognizable and it's consistent with the Peanuts strip.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think it does work because I've seen the newer kind of CG animated Peanuts movie, and it has a different aesthetic. It has a different feel that doesn't match kind of what my having grown up with these movies, my kind of impression was, right? It's like getting that what's it called? Like almost like similar example is like looking at like the original Rugrats, and then they just came out with the new CGI Rugrats, and I'm like, it just aesthetically
feels wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't work right. So to that end, I would say the animation does hold up, and in a lot of ways, it also solidifies its place as an older cartoon. So something that it does feel as if it's being passed down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Through the generations, it's something that we didn't lose along the way. Yeah. And to that end, I kind of enjoyed it.
I would agree.
Versus getting maybe like an updated version with newer graphics. I'm like, I don't think we need it. I think it does its job fairly well.
Yeah.
So, this will actually probably be somewhat of a shorter episode because the runtime of, it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown is only like 25 minutes.
Shorter than most of our podcast episodes.
Yeah. If we run longer than that, I don't know, if there's that much to get into. But, one of the things that was interesting from a story standpoint is the movie kind of positions the Great Pumpkin as almost a Santa Claus of Halloween. Yeah. How did you feel about that? I mean, to me, I wasn't sure what they were actually going for. Maybe just believing in the holiday mythology.
I was kind of surprised because, first of all, obviously there are traditions that we associate with Halloween in its own right, pumpkin carving, trick-or-treating, all this stuff.
And they have them in this. They do carve a pumpkin.
They do.
They go trick-or-treating. They go bobbing for apples. They go pick pumpkins. I mean, those are all the things.
And I thought it was weird that obviously this is what, Schultz created the Great Pumpkin mythology. And to some extent, I would have thought that it would have kind of caught on to a greater extent within our culture. I mean, it's been more than 60 years, almost 60 years,
and
right?
It still gets watched every year.
And we still talk about it and it's referenced. It hasn't caught on to the extent that I would have thought it would. But I did some digging into Schultz and why did he kind of include this story? And why did he insist on making Linus be such a firm believer in the Great Pumpkin, only to be
let down
every single year disappointed?
Right.
And Schultz's position was kind of the fact that he thought it was very important to believe in your beliefs, even if other people didn't. And there are things in our lives, there are things in our mind that we hold dear that the world insists on trying to take from us and crush. And he's like, you know what? It's important that we stick to those.
Yeah.
Even if everyone else thinks we're crazy. And so I get what he's going at there. I think that's a little grander in thinking than what the Peanut special is. But I think part of what makes all these Peanut specials so cool is they seem very grounded in these bigger worldview issues.
Right. And that theme, I guess, is solidified literally in almost the last shot of the movie when Linus is talking to Charlie Brown and he's like, another year, it didn't happen. And they basically are like, when it comes around again, hopefully next year will be the year. Yeah. Right. And that's kind of, they're like, hey, I mean, was I disappointed? Sure. Do I believe in this thing? Yes. But, just because everyone made fun of me, because he was embarrassed, right? I think, kind of the animation, they literally just drew like red squiggly lines across his face. But I mean, Linus was embarrassed and everybody kind of made fun of him. But he does in the end kind of stick with his beliefs that the Great Pumpkin will arrive someday. Yeah. So, and not just be Snoopy.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny because, you go to the Christmas one, which, we may end up talking about during the, Christmas holiday season, but, you look at that one and they're actually diving into some elements of like Christianity and kind of belief and bigger things.
Faith and
Yeah, and they actually, I think is it Linus that has the monologue?
Yeah.
He really kind of gets into that whole thing. And with this one, they don't go in such a hardcore way. I think honestly, it's almost funny because when Charlie Brown compares the Great Pumpkin to Santa Claus, and he has a comment, I forget what it was, because Linus is like, no,
because he's not, because he's like, is it the part where he talks about, because he's the second guy, he tries harder or something?
Yeah, but Charlie Brown has a comment where he's like, I guess our beliefs differ or something, and like he almost is pointing to that Christmas special to be like, this isn't that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're not hitting that home here because that's not what Halloween is actually about, where it's going to be something a little bit different.
Yeah, no, for sure. I want to talk a little bit about the history of this particular Charlie Brown special.
Okay.
In doing some digging, I was a little surprised to find out what I did. Obviously, the first one was the Peanuts, Charlie Brown Christmas, and that was huge. And at the time, networks didn't expect it to blow up the way that it did.
Sure.
Remember, 3 networks, it received something about, for its time slot, like 46% of the viewing audience. So almost half the people watching TV were watching the Christmas special when it came out.
That's crazy.
They tried it again. They did some baseball one. I don't think I've even ever seen it. And it was really successful. So the networks came back to Schultz and the rest of the creative team, and they said, listen, we want you guys to do this again. And the director on it was, let me pull this up because this is not stuff that I know, Bill Melendez.
Okay.
And so him and Schultz got together and they said, hey, we can do it again. But the networks did tell him, they said, if you're not successful, this is going to be the last Peanuts gang special that we're going to let you do. So don't mess this up. So they kind of put their heads together. They're like, okay, we can do some fun stuff with Halloween. And it ended up securing 49% of the viewing audience at that time slot. So up until this point, this was even more widely viewed than the Christmas one.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I think that's weird to think about because obviously the Christmas special is the iconic one.
Right. He has this sad little tree and they had aluminum trees. And
exactly. But apparently this was more watched at the time than that one, which I thought was kind of an interesting fact.
Well, it's funny because the Peanuts have endured at large in our culture, right? I think at one time they were, a part of even like an insurance commercial, like MetLife or something. Mm-hmm. The specials still air every year, both on cable and I believe now Apple TV has the rights, which I don't know how that happened. Yeah. But money.
Yeah.
So, the specials themselves still air every year. And, of course, everybody knows Snoopy, Charlie Brown. If you play the Peanuts theme song, people still know it. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot that still is around. And it's funny because, even though I don't think the Great Pumpkin itself took off, the nostalgia for Charlie Brown in general and the Peanuts gang has endured.
Yeah.
So to that end, I have to ask you, do you think this movie holds up?
I think it absolutely does. I mean, when kids go trick-or-treating, if you give one of them a rock, even today, they know what you're talking about. And that's cool. That shows the power of what Schultz was doing at the time.
Oh, I love it. He's like, I got a rock. And then at the end, they all compare all their candy. And he's like, I just got a bag of rocks.
Apparently, I guess this was debated because when they first
did the best part.
Schultz just wanted it to happen once. And they're like, no, we got to do it 3 times to drive home who Charlie Brown is. And after it happened, I guess people all over America felt so bad that they sent candy in and it was marked specifically for Charlie Brown.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's so funny because, I mean, yeah, I agree. I think, from a holiday perspective, there's a lot of movies that have come and gone, and there's a lot that, will be staples of, holiday tradition for years to come. Halloween doesn't have nearly as many movies dedicated to that holiday as Christmas does. And to that end, if you're a fan of the Peanuts gang and the specials, the nostalgia that it brings, and then being able to share that same story through the generations, I think this movie absolutely does. And mostly for those reasons. I don't think it's necessarily like the most powerful story or, anything so profound. It's the holiday, it's the nostalgia, and it's being able to, share that with other people.
And it's been watched and rewatched for close to 55 years. And I can't think of anything else associated with Halloween that has that kind of history.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we got to give it to him here. I'm a fan of the Peanuts specials, and I do watch them every year. When they were on cable, now I can stream them. But when they were on cable, usually it was around the first week of the month prior to the holiday, they would air it. Mm-hmm. And, that was something I would always watch, except for the Thanksgiving one. I think that one actually airs on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I feel like that too.
I think Halloween airs early, and I think Christmas airs early. So, but I always remember taking time out and being like, oh, the special is going to be on tonight. Let's get a little festive, maybe put up some Christmas stuff, put up my Halloween, go get a pumpkin.
Well, and part of that too is right within our social collective and our social consciousness, like Snoopy and Charlie Brown are characters that we all hold very dear, I think. And there's something that we all relate to in Charlie Brown, which is probably why he's such a great and memorable and lasting character.
Yeah. Shoot, you could still see Charlie Brown, Snoopy costumes at Halloween parties. You can go to the mall, you can find figurines and stuffed plushes and pillows. Yeah. And I mean, they're around. Mm-hmm. And they might even have, think nights dedicated to the Peanuts gang. I think they do. Wow. Not at every stadium, but I think they do have it.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, as far as the Halloween special goes, though, there's not a whole lot of Halloween movies. And I think this one, hey, if you got 25 minutes, add it to your watch list.
And it's one of the other few Halloween things that you can do with little kids.
Yeah.
You can't show them Friday the 13th. You can't show them The Shining or Halloween, but you can watch Charlie Brown. It's a great pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Sweet. Well, that does it for our episode. Like I said, it's a little bit shorter this week. We did want to bring it up because it's a movie we both love. And, well, it's 30 years. It's older than 30 years. So,
yeah, way older.
Add it to the list. But let us know your thoughts on the movie. Do you watch it every year? Have you ever seen it? Are you going to check it out, this year on Apple TV Plus or whatever? And be sure to keep the conversations going. You can follow us on all the major social media channels. You can subscribe to the show at Apple Podcasts, as well as Google Play Music and on YouTube. So be sure to look for us there. Subscribe and leave us a review. Give us your thoughts. CP, I'm going to send it over to you. Take us out.
Well, on that note, thanks for tuning in for this episode. We hope that you're going to keep watching movies, and we will see you next week.